EZNZ podcast. We've got a lot that we want to cover today, as per usual. The main thing that we're going to talk about today is Windows 10 and the different kinds of versions of it.
Absolutely. With the launch of Surface Go, obviously, we now have three different operating systems across our Surface family itself, They're all very similar, but we want to highlight what actually makes them different. So, obviously, there's Windows 10 Pro.
Yep.
There's Windows 10 Pro in S mode on our laptop.
Yep.
There's Windows 10 Home in S mode on the Surface Go.
Yep.
And most OEM devices that you'd be able to go and buy as a consumer have Windows 10 Home on it. So we definitely want to dive into what that means.
And I think that's something that can be really confusing, right?
Yeah.
So we want to talk about the differences between Windows 10 S, whether it be Home or Pro. They function very similar, but it's when we get into the Windows 10 Home and Windows 10 Pro. So we want to maybe clarify what some of the differences are there, what it might mean for you in using the computer yourself, and what you can and can't maybe do. But we'll dig into that. But first of all, we want to chat about some upcoming games. We are leading into Christmas time.
Absolutely.
Which is terrifying to say. It's really dawned on me today that it is now September.
Absolutely. No, it's super exciting for anyone who's a gamer out there because Christmas time means all those great games are coming out. We did have a brand new Xbox Elite controller.
Yes, that beautiful white Elite controller.
Yeah, we will share a little picture on it, and we might do a bit more of an in-depth talk about it later on. Obviously, it would be cool if we do get hands-on with one. Don't know if that'll happen.
We don't have one here at the moment,
For
now a photo will have to suffice.
We'll cross our fingers in the meantime. But there was another thing that you sent me. You
yes,
get me across
I found this.
Yeah.
I am a social media lurker. I need to know all of the things and what is coming, but there was a magical limited edition, and by limited edition I mean really limited edition,
super limited
charity console released for Shadow of the Tomb Raider as a way to raise some money. So we'll give you a little picture there as well. What a beautiful, ridiculously awesome console, and putting something together for a great cause as well. I think it's very, very cool. But in the next 2 days, on the 7th of September, we are seeing the release of what, Fletch?
We are seeing the release of NBA 2K19.
2K19. You are a big fan of sports-based games, right?
I don't know if I'd say that's 100% true. I'm gonna
anytime,
call you on that.
Anytime
NFL.
my Xbox has gone to sleep, I just see Captain Liger is playing NFL 2K.
Absolutely. I am a huge fan, obviously, of NFL 18. But there is NFL 19, which I won't talk about yet because I haven't played it.
Okay.
So we want to wait until I play that before I talk about it.
All right. Maybe the next game we play on the podcast.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Hannah's promised it. It's happening.
Oh no, classic. Typical.
But NBA 2K19 is, you know what? I've skipped the last few NBA games. Because I'm just such a big fan of NFL, and this is a game where I'm going to get back into it because NBA 2K19, I just don't know. There's something about this version that I'm really excited about.
Really cool. As you guys know, I'm very new to this gaming world and the things that you can do. But we watched some of the trailers for it. We've seen some of the hype around it, and I'm really excited by the neighborhood modes.
The street ball mode.
The street ball mode.
So there's kind of a few different ways you can play NBA 2K18. Obviously, 19. Oh 19. My god. Oh,
we're living in the future.
We are. We're living in the future. You've obviously got your kind of franchise modes or single game modes where you play, you can play as LeBron with the Los Angeles Lakers now.
Yeah.
You could play as a Chicago Bulls if you're into Mr. Magic Mike from back in the day.
Yeah, Mark Jordan.
So you've got all those franchises.
I know that thanks to Space Jam.
There we go. So, but Street Ball is a totally different mode, and I believe, I might be wrong here, that this is the second edition of Street Ball. And it's gotten bigger and better. So you play as your own character.
Cool.
You're playing on the streets of I don't know where it is actually based. They haven't released, told me in the trailers the location.
They haven't given me those details.
It looks super dope. play basketball, of course, but you've got a whole bunch of other ways you can really kind of develop your character. So obviously he goes up in skills and his layup skill and his 3-point skill, all that stuff as you play. But you can also go buy him some wheels. And by wheels, I was like, you can drive a car? It's not a car. But, you know, you can get some cool bikes, you can get some cool scooters to drive around. You can chuck balls at each other and have a bit of a dodgeball match.
Yeah, and I think that's really cool, right? Like you, as a story-driven gamer, I think having that element to something like that,
absolutely.
I think that's really cool, right?
That's absolutely right, and that was something that got released in the last NFL as well. NFL 18 it's the first time that had a bit of a story mode to it, besides just going through the franchises. So it's really cool to get that story mode type of thing going in a game. You know, whether it's with a pre-made character and you follow their story, like in NFL 18, or whether it's with your own character, like in Street Ball and NBA. But the other cool things I noticed was you can play with your crew, which to me, because obviously my life is NFL, that's kind of like playing with your mates in Madden Ultimate teams, where you get your different characters together and you ball out on the court, which is awesome. It's very cool, and then you can even get added onto a wall of fame on the street.
That's what everybody wants, right?
If you go super hard, you'll become a member of that wall of fame.
Whoa.
But the last little detail to this game, Hannah, and I'm sorry, I'm totally excluding you from this conversation right now.
I'm just smiling and nodding. It seems pretty cool.
But every time a new version of these sport games come out, and I think it's something that NBA does really well, that Madden does really well, is they always make little changes which just make that game that much more realistic.
Yeah,
so you know, it's super hard, right, to have a game that can play exactly like a sports game in real life, but they do really pay attention to those little details, those little moves that characters can do, the penalties and the different fouls that can get called by the refs on the court, and how you can exploit those for yourself. The strategy, the overall strategy of the game. I really love how even if it, on the face of it, just looks like the old version with better graphics, when you actually go and play it, those little things get me really excited, because it makes
that's what makes the difference when you play a game, right? And if you look at some old school games from when Xbox and like gaming consoles first came out, in comparison, like number one, obviously the graphics has come such a long way
so far,
but the way that you interact and you can control your character, and the way that you interact with the game and the skills you can do and all of those kinds of things, I think is pretty damn spectacular.
Absolutely. I love those little details, because when you're playing a sports team, for me it's because I can't play in the NFL, obviously, so I'm living the experience through a console instead. So the more realistic that experience is, the better.
Absolutely.
Which is really cool. It even teaches you about the game, honestly, like, because we are from New Zealand, we don't really... It's hard to watch NFL.
And NBA aren't really things here.
Yeah, there's a few diehard fans.
American football and basketball will still exist in this little country, don't get me wrong.
And we don't really have anyone to teach us about the game, right?
Yeah.
So these are another way that we can learn about it besides watching the game.
Awesome.
Like rugby is second nature to me.
Yeah,
I know the rules of that like the back of my hand.
Yep.
And
so do I.
Helps me.
And like, sport's not a thing in my life.
Yeah.
But like it does become second nature when it becomes a part of your culture, right?
Yeah. You're off.
Which rugby very much is here, and you know the NFL is over in the US and things like that. So I think having cool games like this can help share some of those things across the world, and it's something that becomes quite a relatable experience.
Yeah.
Which I think is very, very cool.
And there's one other game, Hannah.
One other game, we did drop a little mention to it with that beautiful console. I'll put it up one more time for you guys to have a gaze at. But Shadow of the Tomb Raider is coming out on the 12th of September. So this is a game that we talked about as soon as it was announced at E3.
We were so excited.
So excited. It looks amazing.
Absolutely. And I know some of the stuff we're going to say we've said before.
Yeah.
But I still am super happy that it's kind of going back to some of those really classic Tomb Raider games where you're going back to Central, Southern America.
Yeah.
I haven't actually read about the game. Why? Because I like to experience the game myself.
Yeah.
So I've watched a few trailers, which I normally don't even do that.
But for the purpose of this, obviously, we have to. So we're not coming in blind, just saying, I'm looking forward to this game.
Absolutely. But I love how it's really playing on that kind of Mayan apocalypse feel with the eclipse coming along. That's why it's some shadow of the Tomb Raider. Because obviously when there's an eclipse, the world's in shadow. I love it really plays on that nostalgia level, which is cool.
It's been such a popular franchise for such a long time, right? With both the films, obviously there's a new film as well, and that game coming on the 12th of September. So really kind of building on, I guess, what we already know and love about the franchise. But as you were saying with the NBA game, right? Like how much the graphics have improved over time, how much your control of the character has improved. I think that it will be an even better Tomb Raider experience than any that we've seen before.
Absolutely. And if you haven't actually played Tomb Raider, the newer ones before, so Rise of the Tomb Raider, you should just get Game Pass for a month. Get Game Pass for a month, $10.95, download it, because if you are a story-driven gamer, which is absolutely me, it is such an awesome experience. And like, honestly, that's what you have to call it. Because this is definitely what I've said before, but it is so cinematic as you play it. It feels like you are producing a badass action movie and really living into it. The scenes are just like amazingly beautiful. The story is really, it's got a nice depth and it's really easy to follow. So I'm super excited to play this. I'll probably play Rise of the Tomb Raider before we get to Shadow of the Tomb Raider, because I love doing that. But I'm actually
lead in and get super excited.
Pretty excited to just go back and play Rise of the Tomb Raider again, so that I can lead into the story better. But honestly, it looks like it's going to be an amazing game. I'm super excited.
Awesome. As I've already overpromised, maybe we can play that too. Let us know, leave some comments and tell us which game you would like to see us play. Because we would very much like to get on and share that experience with you guys as well. I think
what we'll have to do is for NFL, we won't dedicate a podcast to but NFL as well. You promised me I could play NFL 19.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll have to buy it first.
There's always that factor, yes.
Yeah, we'll chuck together
the game.
A bit of a highlight reel, I think. A 5-minute highlight reel from a game and show you kind of some of the awesome stuff you can do. Guys. Absolutely.
Okay, alright, let's talk about Windows. Alright, let's talk about Windows.
Oh, I should do an actual window.
Yeah, window. I remember when I very first started this job, I was in a store and I was wearing a t-shirt, and on the back of it said, "Ask me about Windows," and someone came up to me and was like, "How many windows are in this building?" And I just didn't get it, Like, I was just like, "Oh, dude, like, what? Like, why are you asking me this?" And then he was like, "Windows? Haha." I was like, "Oh, damn." It was
my lord.
Damn, sir, why?
That's just one of those dry jokes, which I'd probably love if it actually, like, at the time, but just
contextually, it didn't happen, bless him. But anyway, back on track. So before we do start talking about Windows and all of the different versions of it, I do just want to stress that physically and from the user interface, these all look exactly the same. So it just kind of depends on what you're wanting to do with your device, how you're using it, what exactly it is that you are using. That is where the different versions of Windows may kind of dictate what device you go for and what you're going to be using. So let's start off, I think, with the beautiful little Surface Go 10-inch device. I have to give her another shout out of just how awesome, lightweight and portable this is. So while these two devices are same but different, the Surface laptop, there are some differences between them. So we really want to focus, we're going to start with Windows 10 in S mode and what that means for you guys at home using it, or when you go on store and asking about it. So Windows 10 in S mode functions using apps from the Microsoft Store. So tell us what that means, Fletch.
Absolutely. So because it functions using apps from the Windows Store, it means that the registry door is closed.
Yeah.
So that might be something that you're saying to yourself right now, what the hell does that mean?
What are you talking about,
What are you
Fletcher?
talking about, Fletcher?
Yeah.
You're getting too technical.
Yeah.
What that means is pretty much you can't download programs from the internet. Because when you download programs from the internet, you tick some terms and conditions, and we know no one reads it.
We know that no one reads it.
We know no one reads it. And what those terms and conditions are actually saying is, one, how it's going to use data and all that, but also how it's going to edit your registry.
Yeah.
And as more and more programs get downloaded, they edit that registry over time, and it slows your machine down.
Yeah.
And we all probably have experience of having a device and 3 years later just doesn't feel the same.
Yeah.
But with Windows 10 and S mode, because that door is shut, and because you're getting apps from the Windows Store, you know, that registry is not getting edited.
Yeah.
And that means we can promise 3 things, Hannah.
Yes.
It is optimized for battery life, so you get
Yes.
15% longer battery.
Yes.
It's optimized for speed. So on day 365, it's the same as when you brought it.
And that's, as you said, Fletch, because that registry door is closed, there's not stuff editing and being changed in the background. It's designed to kind of be the same as the day it came out of the factory.
Absolutely. And the last thing it's optimized for is security.
Yeah.
And that's again because things aren't getting edited in the registry, things can't download from online because of that.
Yeah,
so it
we've
just
all
gives
been there,
you-
right? We've all installed some free software off the interwebs because we didn't want to pay for it, and then we've got a random toolbar in our web browser. Things like that. So, you know, if you're, for example, browsing the web, if you're watching Netflix, listening to Spotify, using Microsoft Office, all of those kinds of things, I think Windows 10 in S mode is absolutely perfect for you.
Absolutely. I want to share a story, Hannah.
Okay.
I want to share a story because
That's what we're about.
Yesterday actually, I was in store. We were setting up Surface Go's because they just released, obviously. So getting some accessories out to go with them, and I started chatting with a customer, and we were talking about the Surface Go versus what he's used to at home, versus a Android tablet, and versus the iPad.
Yeah.
And we're just talking about what he does. You know, he very much is that person. He uses Office, he uses Netflix.
Yeah.
He does a bit of Excel work. He does a lot of presentations. Because he's a church minister.
Oh,
so
cool.
he does a lot of presentations.
Yeah.
And, you know, telling him exactly what... I told him all about 10 and S mode, and he loved it. Obviously, I told him about the pen as a presentation clicker, all that goodness, a wireless display adapter because it was perfect for what he needed. But just comparing the productivity side, the way Windows 10 now works with all sorts of different devices.
Absolutely.
S mode was perfect for him, and it was a real big key selling point for him buying that product.
Absolutely, and I think what a great story.
Yeah.
What a great story, and obviously that's what it comes down to, right, is either your needs or the needs of your customer that you're selling to. So really asking those key questions and making sure that you know what they want to use the device for. So I really want to stress that with S mode, I know that everyone out there compared it to RT when they first heard about it. Windows RT was around about 5 years ago, and I just want to stress that stuff's changed over the last 5 years, guys. So it is not a lesser version of Windows.
No, not at all.
It is just Windows with their registry door closed. So what happens, Fletch, if, for example, I need to install something like the full version of Adobe Photoshop from Creative Cloud?
Absolutely.
I download that software from the internet, and it turns up on my device as an exe file that I need to run.
So what happens is there will be a little pop-up that comes up and says, you can't download this online. We can show
can't install
Oh,
this.
sorry, you can't install this. We'll show you some similar stuff in the store. So it'll take you over to the store. You'll see stuff like Photoshop Elements, which is
sort of the app version of it.
Yeah, like an app version. And then if what you want isn't in that store, or a similar app doesn't fill that need, then it'll tell you how to switch out of Windows 10 and S mode, which is a super quick step. It takes literally 3 minutes because all it's doing is opening that door.
Yeah, and that's just something that we wanted to make super clear. I think that that's probably been the most common misconception around Windows 10 and S Mode, is that it's a light version or a lesser version of Windows. Absolutely not. All of that functionality from Windows 10 Home on the Surface Go is still there. That just needs to be unlocked. And that needs to be unlocked based on your needs, not based on the fact that you think you should do it, right? Because if you are only browsing the web, using Microsoft Office, watching Netflix, YouTube, those kinds of things, I think that'll suit you. And I don't think that you'll, encounter an issue of not being able to do things.
Absolutely.
But if you do encounter that issue, you can switch into Windows 10 Home on the go, or Windows 10 Pro from the laptop.
And I just want to stress, as soon as you ask someone, do you want a computer that will never slow down?
Yep.
Then you get Windows 10. 10 and S mode.
10 and S mode, absolutely.
But like Hannah says, as soon as you need to switch out, you can, because we want Windows to, we want to have the right Windows for everyone.
Absolutely.
We want to have an experience which you can customize to make it the best experience for yourself.
Absolutely.
And that's a huge part.
We don't have these three things and more when you get into enterprise, but that's not where we're going today. We're talking about what you can get at retail. So if you go into your friendly electronics or retailer, these are the kinds of iterations of Windows that you'll be able to purchase.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about what happens if you switch out from the Surface Go into Windows 10 Home. What does that then mean you can do, Fletch?
So that means primarily you can install the programs you need from online. So that's what we mean when we say an exe file, an executable file. It's a file downloaded online to install a program.
So for example, that's your things, as we use the example Photoshop from the Creative Cloud, things like Google Chrome, if you want to be able to use that as your browser rather than Edge. Those kinds of things. But there are so many apps in the Windows Store. Spotify, there is iTunes, very much a lot of things that meet your needs. So if you do buy an S Mode device, I totally encourage you to give it a go. Give it 7 days. If you find something that you need and cannot access through the store, then switch. But I definitely recommend giving it a chance. But as you said, Home, the main difference there is just being able to do those things, download that software from the internet.
Yeah, so Home is what pretty much everyone in the world knows.
Yeah.
It's what they've been using. It is designed to be consumer software, so to make everything you want to do on it as smooth as possible. So it's very much based on what you guys want to consume. That's why we use that terminology. If you're a gamer, if you're wanting to use the full Creative Cloud suite, that's when I think the most people would swap out into Home. So I personally think 80% of people probably in the world at the moment, 10 and S mode is going to give you the best experience. But for those people who we call more intensive users,
power users.
The power users, that's when switching out is really important, and having that option to do so, having that option being free, so that you can get the most out of your device.
And what I love about that as well, and where I think it really differs from RT, if you guys were floating around in the tech industry or even just buying a computer at that point in time, I think that switch option is really special and it's really important, right?
Yeah.
So if you encounter that barrier of, oh no, I cannot get this through the Microsoft Store, I need to download something, you don't have to go out and buy a new device. You can just switch, and then you can have all of that functionality. So as we said, just making it really clear, hopefully clearing up some misconceptions that you may have. It's literally just the same version of Windows, just with that registry door closed, to focus on battery life, performance, and security as well. So the way I like to think of it is that by running apps verified by Microsoft through the store, is that Microsoft are managing your security on your behalf. But if you switch out into Home, then maybe you need to, maybe purchase a third-party internet security and utilize those kinds of things. So your Norton, your Trend, blah blah blah, those sorts of things. But there is of course Windows Defender, which is available for free across the Windows platform range. I really want to focus there on Windows Defender, and the reason that it's designed, it is on your device because, you guys may be familiar with the setup process, that as soon as you turn your device on, one of the first things you do is connect to the internet to download updates.
Yeah.
Having Windows Defender automatically installed on any Windows 10 PC means that as soon as you connect to the internet, you are guarded by Windows.
Absolutely.
Windows Defender. You're not having any gap in when you may want to install your third-party softwares, if that is a choice that you make. But Windows Defender will always be on your device, so as soon as it's on, it's protected, which I think is very cool.
Absolutely. And when it comes to just one last shout to show you how awesome Windows Defender is, WannaCry was huge not too long ago, right?
Yeah.
WannaCry didn't really affect computers with Windows Defender because an update came through like that to stop it. So WannaCry mainly affected other OSs or older versions of Windows.
Yeah,
so you're
and that's why running updates is so important, people. Absolutely, being on the latest, on the greatest, and making sure that your device is kept up to date. I know people find running updates super annoying, but they are really important, right, to protect your device. If your device is running slow or something's been a little bit funny, it probably means there's an update because there's a patch to fix whatever is wrong.
And it's not like back in the early 2000s
where an update will take you all day.
It takes you a couple minutes, so it's not too hard.
Absolutely.
But I think that security message, Hannah, is a good segue as well into talking about how Windows 10 Pro is different from Windows 10 Home.
That's a great segue. So we did talk about Home a little bit in the middle. It's basically what you know.
Exactly. That's why we're not going into too much depth. Because
Absolutely.
I think Home is what you know. Pro has some additional features, really kind of more focused at business.
Absolutely.
That's why there's not many devices that have Pro at a retail level, so that's why you don't really see it in many people's homes.
Currently, Windows 10 Pro is on the Surface Studio, the Surface Book 2, the Surface Pro, of course, and the Surface Laptop if you choose to switch it out of S mode, so it is in Windows 10 S mode in Home
Windows
and
10
Pro.
and Pro.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Windows 10 Pro and S mode.
Yeah.
There we go. What a little sentence that one was. Just had to really just stop and think about what I was saying there. So great mention of security. So Windows 10 Pro involves things such as BitLocker and BitLocker to go. Can you explain those for us?
Absolutely. So I'm going to explain it as BitLocker and something called a TPM chip.
Yeah.
So BitLocker is pretty much a super secure bit of software which encrypts your hard drive through your software level, right? So that's very important to know because we're going to talk about a TPM chip which does something similar for your hardware.
Right.
So if there was ever someone who was trying to be malicious towards you, who was trying to, get into your computer, hack into it remotely, BitLocker is there to stop them being able to access your hard drive. So the way some people might have noticed it before when you've reset a computer which has BitLocker on it, you've reset a computer with Windows 10 Pro, it'll ask you for your BitLocker key. And that's something between, I believe, 16 digits right up to something like 48.
40 digits, it's crazy.
You can make it incredibly secure with that. And you can access that with your Microsoft account if you need to as well.
Yeah, because I'm not going to remember 40 digits. So it's very important to have kind of a backup in place to be able to access that information somewhere else.
100%.
But securely access that information. It's not like writing down that number in a notebook and keeping it safe somewhere. That is secure once again through your account as well.
Absolutely. But what if someone then stole
your device?
Right? What if they didn't try to get into it through software, they stole it, they took the hard drive out and they just connected it? Normally you would think that it's an easy way to get information out.
No.
But on Pro devices, when you buy a device that has Windows 10 Pro built into it, so like a Surface Laptop, like a Surface Pro, like a Book, like a Studio, then it comes with something called a TPM chip actually in the hardware of the device. So what that TPM chip does is it stops someone physically being able to break into your hard drive. So if they tried to connect your hard drive into something, the TPM chip, it's built in and wouldn't let them access that information. So you've got two levels of security. So you've got that software level, and you've got the hardware level.
That's super cool. And I did mention as well BitLocker to go, and that's really cool. What happens if you plug in a USB or an external hard drive or something? BitLocker to go is a feature through Windows 10 Pro, which allows you to set that same BitLocker password protection thing to a USB. So for example, if I had a USB with personal information, other people's information, company sensitive information, and if I happen to drop it, let's face it, we've all dropped and lost a USB at some point in time. I remember once I was at the supermarket and I happened to pick up a USB on the ground, and on it had this guy's CV. It had quite a lot of information about this person, so I opened his CV, it had his phone number on it, I gave him a call, and he had been stressing about it. He was freaking out about how much information was actually on that tiny little USB, so that was someone who could have greatly benefited from something like BitLocker to go.
Absolutely. But there's actually quite a lot when it comes to Windows 10 Pro that we can talk about. One that I do want to shout out is remote desktop. So Windows 10 Pro, because most of the time you're working with a business, you need to use remote desktop to access at an in-depth level someone's computer to push through different setups to customize that computer. And now, so remote desktop does that at a very high level. Windows 10 Home doesn't have remote desktop. It does have something called Quick Assist, which is a very basic version, and it's mainly to help you when it comes to troubleshooting or teaching someone how to use a device. So it lets them still take control of your computer, but not in the same way as pushing through what a business needs with remote desktop.
I think that, as we said, it's really important to be aware of your own needs, or if you're selling these devices, your customers' needs. So asking these kind of questions. And if you've very much switched out when we started talking about Pro, it means you probably don't need that functionality. Or it means you work for a company where you've got an IT person who manages that functionality.
100%.
Because there's all kinds of things like Hyper-V and domain joins and those kinds of things, which are also functionalities that you get with Windows 10 Pro. I'm going to put a link in here, and I'll put it in the description below as well, to a really quick side-by-side comparison of what Home offers you and what Pro offers you, because it's very much in those kinds of functionalities of device management and security and those kind of really in-depth things that you may or may not need.
Absolutely. So if you take anything away from what's different between Windows 10 Home and Windows 10 Pro, if you take literally anything away, it's these two things. Windows 10 Pro is designed for business, and it's designed for that business to have manageability of devices. So manageability and security. Those are the two key things about Pro.
Absolutely. And then when we're comparing S and Windows 10 and S mode and Home, I think that comes down to that security message as well, because Microsoft's managing your security with S by verifying those apps that you're using through the store, and then Home is kind of letting you have free reign if you do want to use other things outside of the store as well. So it's a managed experience versus a pretty open experience. One's developed to give you freedom, one's developed to be optimized for security, battery life, and performance. Boom. Awesome. I think that we have covered a lot of ground.
I think so. I think that's a good one. I think that's a lot of information to chuck at you guys now. We need to let it sink in.
Let's let it simmer. I hope that all of that made sense. I hope that maybe it cleared up some misconceptions, myths, or things that you may have heard or been confused about, and what these things actually meant and what was available. As I said, I will link some of those, the Home and Pro comparison, just so you guys, if there is anything specific, can find out for yourselves. But anything else? Any leaving thoughts for us, Fletcher?
Be awesome.
Be awesome. Be better. Work smarter, not harder. All of our classic sayings.
And have a great time.
Have a great time.
Have a great time,
bless
guys.
you. Play those new games. Get involved with NBA 2K19 and Tomb Raider and some of those luscious new things coming from Xbox. But thank you so much for joining us on another week of the EZNZ podcast. We will see you guys next week.